welcome to my channel, Fierce, Bold, and Unafraid. This is episode number 4, and if you're tuning in for the very first time, yay! Thank you for tuning in. Welcome again. So last week, I did an episode just on the eve of New Year's, okay? And I was talking about goal setting, basically, but more so in terms of writing down your goals or the power of writing down your goals. So I was talking from a very personal perspective because in summary, I shared how in 2007 I wrote down over 200 plus goals for my year, and I did an analysis of the goals just towards the end of last year, and I realized that over the last decade, I've actually achieved over 70 plus of my goals. And for me, I strongly believe the reason why is because I actually wrote down my goals. So today, this episode is a bit of a spin-off. This topic is a spin-off of last week in this sense, okay? Today, I want to ask one question. Guys, who do you listen to? Okay? And again, this is a very personal perspective as an entrepreneur. If you disagree with me, it's good, but allow me to share and just come into your heart and share with you what I think about this. Now, who do you listen to? What do I mean when I ask who do you listen to? Again, I'll share something personal about my year in 2018, crossing over into 2019. So many of you may know, some of you may not even know, but I've shared this on my social media. People very close to me know what I've been going through in my business, what I went through in my business rather. And in 2018, towards the tail end of the year, in November, I remember I was in deep financial funk. I was in crisis, so to speak. I was in a situation where I was unable to pay my rent. I was unable to pay for food. I was unable to pay for things, basic things. I could not buy myself anything, my kid nothing. I was not able to pay school fees. I was lapsing on my insurance payments. Things were just going to hell, okay? Actually, they did. And I was getting bank letters from the bank, creditors. I was getting letters from auctioneers. Eventually, I was kicked out of my home and I had to now shack up with a very good friend of mine, an old friend of mine, with my baby and so on. And that was that, okay? But I remember during this period of turmoil, stress, financial stress, emotional stress, physical stress, I remember listening to a lot of people, a lot of my friends, loved ones, family, colleagues, fellow entrepreneurs would come to me and be like, Lillian, we hear you. It's unfortunate, yeah, your business, this and this happened, and it's, not your fault, but this is where you are, but you need to get your act together. And I remember this one particular friend of mine, I had actually an acquaintance, so to speak, a colleague. I had been introduced to him in 2018, and he was working at some organization, and I'd been introduced to that organization. And I remember him calling me in December. At the time when now, I remember we had no food in the house, and I was just telling him, oh my God, things are thick. And he was like, Lillian, I'm quitting my job. Now, this guy had a very, very well-paying job by any standards, Kenyan standards, 6-figure income, okay, per month. And he was like, you can come and take over my job. And I'm like, but you just got employed. Why are you quitting your job? And he's like, he wanted to leave because he had reached the end of his wit's end with a job, and he felt he wasn't growing anymore in employment, and he wanted to just go out and do his own thing. So he's like doing me a favor because of his position in the company. He was like, you know what, Lillian, you can come and take my position and you will earn my 6-figure income. Now guys, this made absolute sense for anyone who's listening. I'm sure this makes a lot of sense, because you're thinking, one, you can't pay for anything. So here's someone telling you that overnight by January, you'll be in full-time employment and you'll be good to go. Now, I thought about it for a while, and then I remember eventually telling him like a day or two later, and I was like, no. And this is why, guys, okay? Here was a gentleman that I respect, okay, who was employed. And he was quitting his job to go and start his own business because he was unfulfilled in his job. So he's living a very well-paying job, and now he's advising me to take the well-paying job, okay, which makes sense given my situation then. And I looked and I listened and I was like, and I prayed about it and I said, God, this could be something good for me, but this is not my dream. This is not my goal. I've been in business for over a decade. It doesn't make sense for me to go back to employment or to go into employment, okay? And I remember praying to God and said, this may not be the wisest decision even for my daughter, but I am willing to be courageous enough to just say, you know what? I'm gonna work my tail off and I'm going to pick myself up from ground zero. So eventually, I declined the job offer, the 6-figure income per month, and I simply moved into my friend's house and started hustling, okay, again from zero. Now, guys, fast forward to end of 2019. Unbelievably, it didn't even take me 4 months of focus, 4 months of diving into what I was doing, the new thing that I was doing, and all that, and just learning and growing. And eventually I began to see doors opening. I began to see income coming in. And eventually, exactly a month later, after I moved into my friend's home with my baby, I moved out, okay? So what's the point of this conversation? This point of this conversation is, had I listened to someone who has not walked my journey, I wouldn't be here, guys. Yeah? And some of you are listening to people who have no clue what you're going through. I mean, it's like, I'm not married, but I have friends who are married, and I have friends who have amazing, fantastic marriages. If I wanted to get married, if I was getting into that space, which hopefully will happen, I would go to my friends who have successful marriages or who have successful relationships for advice about how to behave or how to be or what to expect in marriage. I wouldn't go to someone who has never walked that path. It doesn't make sense. Same thing, like if I want to start go into farming, I have friends who are successful entrepreneurs in farming. I would not go to an IT expert to teach me how to grow tomatoes or put up a greenhouse. It doesn't make sense. So it's the same thing. If I want to grow spiritually, who do I go to? I can't go to an atheist, or I can't go to someone who doesn't practice their spiritual, growth and things like that. I would go to a spiritual mentor. So what I learned from this experience was I was going to be diverted from my goal to succeed as an entrepreneur by listening to somebody who was not equipped to advise me. So today, that's what I really want you guys to be left with. That's what I want you guys to think about. Some of you are in positions where you need to make decisions about your life in 2020. You need to make changes, whether it's at your workplace, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in the relationships that you have, but you're listening to the wrong people. So the question is, why do we do that? And the reason usually is there's a lack of self-esteem sometimes, there's a lack of confidence in our ability to make the right decisions, and it's understandable. When I was in that financial quagmire, so to speak, I didn't really know what I needed to do. And I was taking in all these, advice from everywhere. But I thank God, okay, that I didn't listen, because today I have a business that is bringing in multiple streams of income. I'm not, like I keep on telling people, I'm not yet where I want to get to, because my goals are, huge. Yeah. But had I gone back to employment, it would have been like, oh my God. Now, again, guys, I never knock employment. Some of us in life, we need people who are in jobs, and we need the professionals to, but we also need the entrepreneurs like myself to keep doing what we are doing. That's how this whole economy runs, okay? Will run successfully because of all these different parts. So what I'm saying today, guys, is if you're in a space and you don't know what to do, please, by all means, you have your goals written down, okay? You know what you want to achieve in your personal life, okay? So you need to seek out advice from the right places. And for me, as a Christian, I also encourage people to also dig deep, okay? Listen to the internal voice in you. Sometimes I say your intuition is sometimes God talking to you, okay? So when you don't know what it is, you just talk to God. He'll help you. So that's it for today. I hope you got something from this. And again, I look forward to just sharing more videos and more value. But thank you so much for tuning in, and see you soon.